my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, January the 9th. It is the second Sunday of the new year, 2022. So for those of you who didn't catch last week's dual Flosstube extravaganza, Happy New Year. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you are a returning viewer, I always want to say I truly do appreciate those of you who come back regularly, and those of you who comment regularly. I always appreciate that because it does make me feel like we're having a little bit of a conversation. I always chuckle because there's a friend of mine who she's very good about, she talks at the video while she's watching it, and I do have to remind her that even though she's talking, I can't really hear it just at that point in time. So don't get me wrong, I've done it myself where I talk to the video and I totally acknowledge that I know that the people can't hear me when I'm usually it's when they're looking for the name of something and I know what it is and I'm going, it's this. And you know, surprisingly, after they've recorded it, posted, published it, gone through the whole YouTube process, that they can't hear me while I'm talking at the video. But for those of you who, like me, occasionally talk to the video, thank you for talking to the video too. And with that, I just had a moment going, this is actually my second location that I'm trying this in. I had a different location, then I went, oh, I don't like how that looks at all. So then I moved everything, and so now I'm worried that I've forgotten something. But so I'm going to go through the comments from the last 3 videos all in one big go. So Dee, who's looking for the details on my sampler of stitches, I have posted a picture on my Instagram account, which is CityStitcher52, which has a pretty good picture of the Lugana, which is a 32 count Pearl Grey Lugana, and the Soie d'Alger that I've got currently going. I will also list all of those Soie d'Alger numbers in the notes to this video as well, in case you're looking for those again. There's going to be a couple of blanks, and you'll see why when we get to that particular portion of the episode. There was somebody else who had... Oh yeah, so Beth had a question about where do you get the charts for the drawn thread sampler stitches that I'm doing as my sal. So I got mine from my LNS at the time that they were coming out, and those were originally published in... Let's see if I can't figure this out. Okay. 2005. And I do have sort of some of the original versions of these charts. There were corrections to certainly I think it's the STU one, that one had some corrections, so I printed those out. If you're getting them now, they're probably fixed. I also created a little bit of a ruckus when I was talking about that I needed to order some bijou metallic, because my ABC calls for the bijou metallic. As noted back in December, I did hear back from the Drawn Thread because I put the question in, and when they got to the end of it, they kind of went, we only use, like, you know, this little tiny portion of bijou metallic, and they didn't want to make people buy the metallic thread for that. And so in the newer versions, they don't call for that bijou metallic, they just call for one of, I think it's either the light mauve or it's probably just the light mauve is what they've used on that. But where to get them from, your LNS should be able to order them. They are still available. So my first step is usually sort of try to support your LNS. There are lots of people who don't have a physical brick and mortar shop near them where they can go in and they can look at things, and that's always a struggle, and I totally get that. But if we don't support the physical brick and mortars, that's how they go out of business. So try to support your physical brick and mortar shop, and if you don't have one, so if you don't have a physical brick and mortar shop close to you, and there goes my voice again, it's weird. guess this is my Sunday thing now. And you are ordering online, so you can also order them, again, for many stores. Because this is an older chart, I wouldn't expect that a lot of brick and mortar stores necessarily have them in stock, but they can bring them in for you. If you are looking to get them as fast as possible, it's probably to get it from the drawn thread itself. I will put a link to that in the notes below as well. You can buy the entire set, or you can buy the charts one at a time. I was noting in the Stitchin' Mommy, she was making a comment about because she was gifted her supply, the charts, the linen, and all of that. That was given to her as a gift. She was talking about whether you could get them with or without embellishments. And on the Drawn Thread site, if you're looking at the individual charts, some of them do say no embellishment, and it's not because those ones that say no embellishment are generally because those particular charts don't need any embellishments. So the ones like I showed you, like where there's there's a button or a charm or some beads or whatever, there is no option on the site where you can buy that particular chart without those. If you buy the chart, you get it. The ones that say no embellishment are really just to say, hey, when you get this, there won't be any beads or charms because that particular chart out of the 9 doesn't need any. So just a little bit of a clarification for me on if you're looking at ones that say no embellishment versus the one that don't say that. So those are where you can get the charts. If you don't have the charts and you're wanting to join in, I would say don't hesitate. There's no reason why you can't catch up, and we'll talk about that when we get to talking about what I accomplished on my one day of stitching on Sampler of Stitches. Okay, sorry, I really do have to cross the things off as I go through them to make sure I got them all. Where to get the charts? Okay. So the other ones, I did want to say a special hello to Anna. I don't know if she's necessarily watching this particular one, but she commented on one of the 3 previous videos, and she was wanting to say hi from northern Spain. So I do want to say a special hello to her, because it sort of surprises me that there's someone from northern Spain who's watching my videos and enjoying them. So thank you, Anna. Thank you for putting in the comment and letting me know where you're from, and I'm glad you're enjoying the Flosstubes, and I hope you continue to enjoy them. So hello to Anna in northern Spain. I know I've said it before where in my head I acknowledge that Flosstube is a global community and that there are people from all over that are participating and watching and all that kind of stuff, but for some reason it sort of was like, wow, how in the world did you stumble across my channel? And I'm really glad you're enjoying what you're seeing. Sorry, I just feel like the ring light's just a little too much. I think that's a little bit better. All right. Anyway, so hello to Anna. Not that I'm not saying hello to all the rest of you, but special shout out because Northern Spain, that was a good one. I also want to say a quick little shout out to EJ from the Sunshine Stitchers. Was catching up on their most recent video, and she watched my whip parade, and it's always exciting when a Flosstuber that you watch regularly makes a comment that they've actually watched your video and that they enjoyed it, and so thanks, EJ. That was really great. It made my day when I got to see that you'd watched my video and you'd enjoyed it. All right. Okay. These ones I think are going to come in a little bit more of a random order. Thank you for all the comments and messages again, because I had been missing a couple of weeks. We sort of talked about that. So yes, so far I'm hoping that we're going to be on a more regular schedule. And I'm really glad that a lot of you really enjoyed where I talked about the lessons that I learned from each of the projects and the things that I am carrying forward from those lessons learned into how I came up with my plans for 2022. Both the things that I really enjoyed and the things that you went, wow, that doesn't work for you. There was a comment, thank you to the person who commented that they really enjoyed seeing the village behind me in the previous 2 videos. Thank you, I really like that village too. It's actually a stained glass village. It's called Vitraville, which was manufactured by Bill Jobs. They've gone out of production, but you certainly can find them on eBay if you're interested in them at all. Again, I will write out Vitraville for you, and you can just Google that. Quite frankly, my answer is Google that on eBay and you'll see what's available if you have any interest in getting a stained glass house for yourself. Okay. I also liked, who was it? Is it Jean? Yeah, Jean made the comment that she likes, so one of my comments I made is like, it turns out I really don't like actually starting the project until I'm about 2 hours into it. I'm not enjoying myself. Where she's like, I love starting a new project and I hate kitting. I'm going, yeah, that's not me. I love the kitting project. I love looking at all the different things and dithering and spending probably 3 times as much time as I should making decisions about it, but that's all fun for me. The starting is where I'm not enjoying it. 2 hours in, I've settled down and I've got things going, but kidding? Oh yeah, no, I'm good at the kidding. Lynn made a comment that she also likes to do a combination of big and small projects, and again, that was one of the big lessons that I learned from last year, is that I really do need to have you know, I started a lot of bigger projects last year and I started them all for the right reasons, but I probably do need to do some smaller projects just so I can, you know, feel like I got something more accomplished. And that will play out in certainly what I've got planned for 2022. Okay, Denise Jeffries asked me a question about the new free patterns that are coming out from Jeanette Douglas, about whether or not they would be good as pin cushions, and my answer is absolutely. And in fact, I just watched somebody, who was it? They stitched the first one out, which was the Pineapple Welcome. That was the January one, and she stitched it and finished it. So generally I go like, I don't really like those people because they stitched it and fully finished it and they put me to shame, and I go, never mind that. But yeah, and I will say originally a lot of the pieces, a lot of the individual bouquets that make up those 12 bouquets were done as individual projects for various teaching events that Jeanette was at, either was at or was going to be at. So those, yeah, and the answer is, if you think it will look nice as a pincushion, do it as a pincushion. But I can, like, for all of Jeanette's stuff, yeah, all of them, yeah. If you want to do it as a pincushion, do it as a pincushion. If you want to make it into one of those cubes and have a different bouquet on each side, I think that would be great too. I would wait to start on that, or even send a message into Jeanette, because I don't know that the stitch counts are entirely identical, but she could probably, if you were interested in doing one of those cube finishes, she would probably be able to tell you, sort of saying, here's a good stitch count for you that should work for some combination of them. So that's another finishing option. The Craft Connection on Instagram has tutorials for how to do those cube finishes. I saved a lot of their pictures on Instagram on how to finish things. I know, I saved it and I've done nothing with it, but one of these days I'm going to work on achieving a fully finished object, right? Anyway, that's going to come. So yeah, pin cushion, absolutely. And thank you for calling me a stitching goddess. I don't know if that's actually true, but thank you, I appreciated it. Okay. The other one, Lena was talking about Jeanette's free one, that she was having a hard time picking the colors. So I have a couple of suggestions for you. One, you probably, when you look at the overall picture, not that you have all of the individual ones, but if you're anything like me, you probably have a color palette that you like to work in, right? So there's certain greens that I like. So there's going to be green in all of those bouquets, right? There's going to be leaves on most of those bouquets. So I would pick a palette of greens that I'd probably say I would pick up to 4, starting from dark to dark, medium, light, and very light, because that should give you some flexibility as to how it's being used and how it's being combined with other colors. And that would give you a really good grounding palette, that as you are adding the different bouquets. Do you have to do that? No, not necessarily. But that's where I would start if I were starting now. But as we all know, I'm not good until I have all of them and where you can see all the colors being used, which is why I'm not good with a mystery sampler. You know, again, you can probably see from the list of 50 colors that Jeanette has given that were all the called for. You can probably get a gist from that and sort of say, okay, she may have used, you know, 8 to 12 greens, again, because she was doing them for different pieces and she was doing them at different times. But you could probably group those together and go like, okay, how many of these are dark versus medium versus light, and then sort of pick a palette from there is one option. I also understand that she has also put out a DMC conversion list for those, so that you don't have to look at those and go, oh my goodness, I need to get 50 hand-dyed flosses in order to do this. I haven't gone onto the website to check that for myself, but somebody did tell me that there was one available. So that's another option. You could still use the 50 colors, but it would certainly be much more economical. And if you're anything like me, the chances that you have most of those DMC colors in your stash is probably pretty good. So that's a couple of options on that. Yeah, like the people who are commenting about people who are participating in WIPGO and people who are participating in different sales, and I think that's great. That's the really wonderful thing. Welcome to a new stitching year and doing something different or trying something, and it may or may not work for you. From the Sunshine Stitchers, Sheila did no new starts for 2021, and she was very clear for 2022 that she was not going to be doing that again. It was a good practice for her, and she accomplished all that she wanted, but she wasn't going to repeat that, and that's great too. Gary was sort of pushed into participating in WIPGO, and I don't think he enjoyed it at all, so he's not doing WIPGO. And again, it's great to try things, and you'll never know whether something's going to work out really well for you until you try it. You can try it and sort of go, it's not for me. I originally got into the WIPGO group because I thought like it would be interesting, and it turns out I'm way too much of a control freak to let somebody else tell me what numbers I'm working on. I know, it makes no sense at all. And then you have the people sort of say, well, it's your overall yearly goal and you don't have to accomplish. And I'm like, well, then what's the point of that? Anyway, whatever. So WIPGO, I really enjoy seeing what people are putting on their WIPGO boards, the types of goals that they're setting for themselves. It's just not one that works for me because I like to decide my goals for myself. Anyway. Who knows? 10 years from now, I could be like, oh my goodness, WIPGO is like the best thing ever. Who knows? But it's always great. If you're looking for things, if you're looking for new Flosstube things to watch, in the YouTube search bar, I would put Flosstube and either 2021 WIP Parade or even just WIP Parade, because you could get WIP Parades from years ago from people that, hey, you just never know when you're going to find something wonderful. Or 2022 plans. All of those are great ones, and you just never know when you're going to stumble across a Flosstuber where you go like, they're going to come into your fold and you're going to watch them regularly. So that's one of the things that I'm planning on doing sort of over the course of January, is just trying to do a couple of searches on those 2022 plans and WIP Parade and just see what comes up and see who's new and add a few more Flosstubers to my watching schedule. All right, and then the last question I got was someone had asked me about what size are my bags and what are my tags that I use on mine. So this is my bag. I think this is an A4, but the real measurements are, it's about 13 1/3 inches wide by 9 1/4 tall. I got them off of Amazon. Make sure you do price comparisons, including shipping. You'll just don't get caught up in that. And I choose this size generally because for a single chart, you can get your chart in here with room to spare, and there's enough room in here for me to get a piece of fabric in and generally the flosses. And again, so this is not one where there's like, you know, 147 different colors or something like that. So for me, sort of a regular pattern size project, this works for me to keep everything contained and together. But I do also have some bigger ones, which I do use for ones where, whether it's the fabric or the amount of floss or multiple charts or whatever. So the sampler stitches, all of the stuff is actually sitting in a bigger one, which is this size, which is one size up. So I think this is a 3. I didn't measure this one. But just be very careful when you're on Amazon about looking for the size of what you're getting. Sometimes, depending on if you click on the wrong button, they've got a couple of options and you don't end up getting the right one. But I will measure the bigger one and put that in the information below as well. But so those are generally the 2 sizes of bags that I use. I have the most of this, and then I have about 10 of these ones. And then as far as the tags go, I just had it. I don't know where I put it. Oh, there it is. I thought it was over here. It's over here. So these are just metal ring tags with the paper in them. I got a box of 50. I will put the link to that. Again, I got these straight off of Amazon. You can probably get them from any, you know, office supply store. But I will put an Amazon link to the ones that I got. So these are the tags that I'm adding. I write on these tags with pencil, purely because when the project is done, then I get to erase it and then rewrite on it. So those are the tags that I used. All right. And again, thank you to all of you who watched the back-to-back extravaganzas. Thank you for the comments and the questions. Again, I truly do appreciate getting those, because it, like I say, it lets me feel like we're having a bit of a conversation, even though everything's occurring at different points in time. All right. So let's get into some stitching. 20 some minutes in. So I've had a pretty good week. So in terms of a first full week of January of stitching, I'm very happy with my progress. So I'm going to start with the things that I originally didn't think I was going to do. I'm hauling this one out again. Remember November. So one of my tasks for this week was, I was like, just get the button attached. And so I did that. I sat down and I plotted out my things, and then I stitched for a little bit and then realized I had to make it bigger. So it took me a couple of tries before I got the right size on there, but got it accomplished. I still consider this a finish for 2021. I'm not counting this to 2022. So I just did a diamond and attached the crest onto that. And the interesting thing is, when I looked at this, so generally when I looked at this, I went, you know, the crest is blue, but the name of the city at the top is actually silver on red. So I just matched the red from this color palette to that red and stitched it on. So now I can really say it's finished, other than being fully finished. Now, my plan is to get this framed in an oval frame that has sort of one of those back stands, so it can sit on something. And then I'm going to put pictures of my family members who have passed away, and just have a little collection of family pictures. I will show you that once I've actually taken it to the, well, I think I'm taking it to a framer's. I might try and frame it myself. We'll see how it goes. Check that later. But that is on one of my goals for this year, is to actually get that into a frame. All right. So that got accomplished. So I was happy about that. Then my New Year, New Start, which was the January Cottage from Country Cottage Needleworks. So this was one of my 2 New Year, New Starts. And it has been a good week. I know if I were Sheila, I would have more boards, but I don't. So it is finished. So I'm very happy with that. I think the lights are blowing out the white a little bit, but I did want to talk about, let's see if we can't get this as a screen grab. I wanted to talk about a couple of the things. So last week when I was talking about it, I had commented on the white for the snowflakes. Like I say, I feel like the lights are blowing them out a little bit, but I will promise you in real life, they look fantastic. I'm very happy with them. I'm using DMC B5200. I'm using the brightest of the whites. I actually did one in white and thought maybe it wasn't as best, and then I did the B5200. There's not a huge amount of difference. So the one that I originally stitched in white is still in there, and I think it's all fine. The rest of them I did in B5200. I talked last week that I was going to potentially do them in a toile and get the sparkle. So I hauled out my DMCA toile. I started stitching with it and went, this is not good. Not good at all. So certainly I did several stitches and I went, so on mine, the DMC A12 in white was not showing up as white. It really was showing up as the gray with the metallic. Now I don't know if that's because I was doing it on a paler fabric. So I'm not necessarily giving up on the DMC white A12. It might work if it were being done on a much, much darker background. But certainly on this, it was not coming through as white. So I started stitching with it and sort of in this rooftop here, and very quickly went, that is a non-starter. That's not going to work. So I stopped that. So I've tried it. So I unstitched it and put it into its little floss away bag, and it will stay there for a while until I try it again. So the DMC White A12 was a non-starter on this particular project. The other thing, so I showed you that I had the Pebble Beach, which was the called for color for the roof. So I did not end up using Pebble Beach. I just couldn't do it. So I used the DMC 3790. And, you know, I have an issue with browns. And so I was looking at the cocoa and I couldn't handle having 2 different browns. I know, it doesn't make any sense, but that was me. And so I went, forget it, give up. So the 2 hand-dyed flosses for January. So one is the Classic Colorworks Pebble Beach. The second one is Weeks Dye Works Cocoa. Both of those I changed to DMC 3790. Period, full stop. So all of the brown in here is all DMC 3790. No hand-dyed floss used in this at all. The other interesting thing is, it was interesting as I was stitching this because, you know, this January is in a different sort of blue family shade from this, and I wasn't necessarily okay with it when I started putting it in, but I went, trust that it's going to work out. And I am. I'm totally fine with it now. I think I'm good with it. No change is necessary. Because I looked at this family range and went, well, maybe if you just did this one as a darker one. I think it's the right call. The designer did the right thing in keeping it in a bluer shade. So yes, new year, new start, first finish, pretty good. So I had this finished on Friday, so I was pretty happy with that. So then I spent some time on the infamous Temperature Tree by the Stitchin' Mommy on Etsy. And made some pretty good progress on this. You know, as usual, not quite as much as I was hoping, but, you know, so be it. I know, I should get myself some more boards. Things to work on this year. Okay, so now that I've made my decision that I'm using my Anchor Brown to finish off my tree, and as you can see, I'm sort of coming down the outside of the tree and leaving a gap, and I'm going to fill the inner part with my infamous cocoa bean that is, you know, much more variegated than the cocoa bean that I used over here. So I got my August branch done, and then I spent some time putting the leaves on both July and August. Because what I tend to do, you know, even when I was doing these a branch at a time, is I would pick a color and then do all the leaves on that branch in that particular color. So same thing, I just started on July 1st and did all the leaves in that color, moved to July 2nd, etc., and finished all the colors on that. So the interesting thing, so I also last week downloaded all of the remaining information, so I have all the information for 2021 by day, so I can complete this piece. The interesting thing for me is that every red leaf on there is a day when the temperature where I live was above 30 degrees Celsius. So for where I live, that's a lot of red. That's a lot of red. The oranges sort of put it into, I haven't done the range between 27 and 30, so the orange on there is really sort of 24 to 27. And it's interesting, I just looked at that and went, oh yeah, it was a glorious summer. Way too warm for a lot of people here, but a really enjoyable summer for me. And certainly I looked at that and went, oh, that was great Slurpee weather. Great Slurpee weather. Kind of like another repeat of that summer. We started off the year really warmly. We will be ending the year off with much cooler temperatures, so I had a good chuckle when I looked at those. So it'll make for an interesting tree. So again, I expect that by the end of this week that I will have finished all of the leaves on these two branches, and we'll be working, hopefully I will have completed my September branch, not necessarily the leaves, but certainly the branch by the next time I come on. So this one, I am hoping to finish this off in some relatively timely fashion. I don't want this to be carrying through a lot of 2022, because this is my 2021 temperature tree. So, but it's back on track and it's moving along, so that's great. Okay, so that takes us to the infamous sampler of stitches, which I am stitching only on Sundays. So here is the chart. So currently working on the first chart of the 9, so the ABC. And with all of the floss tubing last week, doing the 2 of them and getting them uploaded in the notes and all that kind of stuff, didn't have quite as much stitching time on Sunday as I was expecting, so I expect to have more this week, but still almost got all of A completed. So that's where my A is. So A is not entirely complete. I have to put the acorn in here, and then there's one box over here that is left to be done. So it will be no problem to get those finished today. So my plan is, you know, so this is the second week, so A should be completed by the end of today, which it is. But once A is done, I'm not going to stop if I've got more stitching time, which I'm expecting. So I'm spending every Sunday stitching predominantly the majority of my stitching time on sampler of stitches. So I do feel like I will be able to make pretty good progress. You know, so I would say it's entirely reasonable to say that easily within one day, can you get one of these letters done? Yes. So that's why I say if anybody's wanting to join in the Sampler of Stitches SAL with us, if you don't have your charts yet, if you are ordering them now and you're like, I don't know when I'm going to get them, welcome to mail issues and I'm wherever and then I have to get whatever, I would say don't worry about it. Don't push, don't be anxious about it. It'll be fine. And when you get it, like I say, this is, I think the stitching so far has been relatively simple and easy to accomplish. So yes, all I have to do is the acorn and do this one box. Why did those two get left over? So I didn't push myself at the end. I probably could have stayed up a little bit later and got them done, but these are the ones that I have to make the decisions on. So I finally have to pick a yellow and I have to, you know, do something with my Soie Perlée color choices. So, you know, when in a quandary, delay. So today I'm really going to have to make a decision. So stay tuned because you'll be able to see what those color choices are for next week. And again, as I've said before, I've got a couple of options. I may, depending on the stitch that's being done, I reserve the right to add more colors in. So the chart only calls for one color of Soie Perlée. I reserve the right to use 2 colors of Soie Perlée if I want to. It's my piece. It only has to make me happy. And so far I'm very happy with this. I talked last week that one of the decisions that I had to make was I had these 4 colors. So the chart only calls for 3, but I had got 4 colors of mauve. And so I was going to have to debate whether I was going to use this combination or this combination. And just in case you're wondering, I ended up going with these 2, which is probably more representative of the original called for colors. So did the very dark one and then one of the lighter ones. Not the lightest, but the second of the light ones. And those were being used for the Algerian eyelets in here. And the reason why I chose to do the lighter one is because when I used the medium toned one, it just didn't look like there wasn't enough contrast for me. And so that's what led me to going with the lighter one. So at this point in time, there are 4 specialty stitches for A. So last week I talked about that I had done the arrowhead, which was the blue one. So this week I did the Algerian eyelets as well as the alternating double back stitch. I have not done the antique stitch. That is yet to come. Okay, because I couldn't help myself because I like math and all that kind of stuff. As far as I can tell, there's about 133 specialty stitches in the descriptions. So according to my math so far, I'm 2.25% of the way through my specialty stitches. So I also said that I was going to do a little bit of a discussion about the specialty stitches. So this week's what I did, so these are the eyelets here. So 2 on each side and 1 in the center. This is an 8-sided eyelet. Probably hard to see on camera. So I've done all sorts of eyelets before. I don't find eyelets to be difficult at all. my couple of things to remember about eyelet stitches is make sure you always start your eyelet from the outside part of the stitch, because you're going to start from the outside, come in, and as you're coming up to your next outside stitch, that's where you're going to be pulling it, and you're going to pull on each of the legs to make that eyelet opening in the center. When I did the one as charted, so I'm doing that one as charted. It was an 8-legged eyelet. I tend to like my eyelets having a thicker border because I like it to be more solid. I think it make the eyelet actually stand out a bit more. But I did the 8 as called for, as opposed to changing it. So the other thing you need to make sure about your eyelets is you need to be very, very careful if you're trying to wind your thread through and not finish off each of them individually. Some people do that, I do not, but you just have to make sure that you're pulling your thread through so that you're not catching it through an eyelet, through the eye of the eyelet. The last thing you want to do is create that hole and have some thread being dragged behind it. So just watch how anytime you're using eyelets, just make sure you're careful about what you're doing with your threads behind to make sure that they're not accidentally being seen through the hole in the eyelet. All right, so the other one that I did was actually, before we move on to eyelets, the other thing about eyelets is how tight you pull them is a matter of personal preference. I will caution you that there are people out there who say if you don't pull it really, really tight, what's the point in doing an eyelet? And you know my answer to this is it's your piece, do what makes you happy. If you like a really pulled tight eyelet with as big an opening as you possibly can, that's for you to decide. If you like it only pulled a little bit because you don't like what happened for whatever reason, how big your eye in the eyelet is up to you. It's a matter of personal preference. Make the opening the size that you like and that you think looks best on your piece. All right, the second specialty stitch was the alternating double back stitch, which it says is a reversible stitch which will form a mirror image of itself on the back of the fabric when worked correctly, which it did. Yeah, so there were 3 rows of this, which is this pink section here. Quite frankly, I mean, I did it. I don't know that I've ever seen a chart that called for me to do an alternating double back stitch other than this one. I'm not sure it's as far as I'm concerned, a specialty stitch, because it's really, you do effectively a couple of cross stitches and then just some back stitches horizontally. I don't know that I would ever use it for a border on something, so my answer is, can I say that I've done it? Yes. Can I say that it's quite easy to do? Yes. I don't know that I'd be looking at this saying like, ooh, I wonder how I could work this into some other piece. It's there. I did it. It was okay. It was fine. How's that for an enthusiastic response? So that's it for my my specialty stitches on this one. So far I am absolutely keeping up with myself. Woohoo! Second Sunday in January, and I am still on track with my plan. I've probably just double jinxed myself by even saying that, but so there it is. It's coming along. I'm happy with my progress. Still happy with my fabric choices and my floss colors. I think that's about what it looks like in real life, right? So I think they're working out just great on this particular one. I realize as I'm sitting here, I was planning on putting onto Instagram on Wednesdays of each week. I'm planning on putting sort of onto Instagram where I was for that particular week. I'm behind because I should have put the one from last week up on Wednesday, but I will put that up now. So you'll see 2 in rapid succession. My New Year, New Start, which is really just the A block, and then the second one will be where I am at this point. It's Wednesday of this week is where you'll see this one. So I'm not horribly behind. Really what I'm trying to do is it's a personal thing for me. There are lots of people that I follow on Instagram who post on Instagram who also do floss tubes. It doesn't drive me terribly batty, but I always find it a little bit interesting when you go like, everything you're showing on your floss tube is something I've already seen on your Instagram. Now I know that everybody doesn't necessarily watch Flosstube, all the floss tubes, and I know that, or certainly if you're like me, you're ones where it's like I follow lots of people theoretically both on Flosstube and on Instagram, but I'm always behind on Flosstube, and I'm a little bit better about Instagram following. So for me, I like to give people the opportunity to hear me, see what I'm doing on my Flosstube episodes and hear me talk about it and then post after the fact. So that really, for me, it's like you'll have the opportunity to come and watch my Flosstubes and you'll get to see what I've done for the first time. If you're following me on Instagram, when I post on Instagram, you may go, I've already seen that. It just gives me another opportunity to put it out there for other people who aren't necessarily watching my Flosstube, and for you to have an easier record if you're so that I can put the details in, so that if you're trying to go back and look through one of my projects, that the details will be there for you to see easier, as opposed to going, okay, when was it over the course of, you know, whatever year was Judy working on project something. So I'm planning on doing, if you looked at my Instagram account for 2021, I was terrible. I did virtually nothing. So my goal for this year is I want to do better about posting the pictures when my Flosstube episodes go up. I want to also do a better job of posting my progress pictures. Certainly so that I can be posting to the hashtag that we're doing for the sampler stitches. This one, that hashtag is SOS2022SAL. So I'm certainly following that. I haven't necessarily been on there most recently to make sure I'm up to date on everybody's. If you are stitching this along with us, I encourage you to post. Not everybody does floss tubes and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's just great to see what people are doing. Lynn, I know that you're working on yours and you're making it bluer. Again, I haven't specifically gone back in to check the hashtag over the last few days, so please post, because I'm sure I, along with everybody else, would love to see what everybody's doing. Don't know, again, for me, it's just like, is everybody doing the called for? How many other people have changed things? Because, you know, I always love to see when people have changed things. So that is my sampler of stitches. Okay, this is going to be a longer video. So I want to do a quick little correction on this. So last week I talked about this Victoria sampler. This was their 2021 stitch along, which was only available in the Facebook group, and that all the parts had come down. As I was catching up on Facebook after I'd already done the video, I discovered a couple of posts in there that said they are planning on releasing these one a month for a small fee. So I don't know what the amount is. The first one is not expected, this January block is not expected to be up until the end of January. But so I previously had said you won't be able to get these anymore, and that's not true. That's inaccurate. They are planning on publishing all 12 of these squares, one a month. And like I say, this first one is not expected to be out until close to the end of the month on the Victoria Sampler website. I will try to remember to, when we get to the end of January, to check and see where that's at if you're interested in that. It really was a lovely stitch along. Again, I couldn't possibly have started it until I saw all the pieces. The Stitchin' Mommy is planning on stitching on this in 2022, so I will be certainly watching her progress. The other great thing about watching it happen in the Facebook group is watching how many people personalized all the things and seeing all the different variations. You know me, and watching all those changes, I just love all of that stuff. So that was really great, and enjoyed that. They are doing another stitch along for 2022. The first piece of that came out on Friday when I originally, I think it was yesterday, I went in to check, and that nobody had posted that they'd finished it yet. They are planning on issuing a new release every Friday for this new stitch along, and that theoretically it will be wound up towards the end of April, but they are planning on leaving all of the parts available through to the end of December of 2022. So again, as I'm sort of watching that happen in the Facebook group, I will let you know how that goes. I will put a link to the Facebook group if you want to join that so that you can pull them down for yourself. The free chart that I've got for you this week came out last year, actually. Again, I haven't quite fixed the printer, so we'll see if this works. So this is from Jan Hicks Creates, and it's called, ooh, let's see how, there you go. So it's called This Is Home. She did it in blues, Quaker motifs, etc., etc. So that's free on her website. I will put a link to that in the notes below if you're interested in getting that. Looks like it would stitch up really quickly. I don't have that in my 2022 stitching plan, but I've downloaded it. You know, I'm really good about the downloading it. Anyway, and with that, let's get into the topic for this week. So, one of the things that I didn't talk about in last week's video about the 2022 plans is that I am, hopefully for the most part, so I'm hoping that over 65% of the projects that I am expecting to start in 2022 are from designers that are different from the ones that I did in 2021. So with my New Year, New Start, certainly for my January piece, Country Cottage Needleworks, I haven't worked on one of theirs in quite some time. So that is this week's designer focus. Now, I have quite a few charts from them. As I've said on multiple occasions, I'm really good about the acquisitioning of the charts. I'm not necessarily the best at getting them all stitched, but I'm working on that. So, I will tell you that I didn't necessarily take all of these out of their bags because that would just be too many. So Country Cottage Needleworks regularly does series. So as you can see from my New Year, New Start, there's my board. So the January one, this is from their Cottage of the Month series. So there's one cottage every month. And last year they were doing a monthly sampler, so one for every month. Their series for 2022 is based all around the Nutcracker ballet. So the first two are out. Now, don't take it the wrong way. I love the music from the Nutcracker ballet. I'm not really a ballet person. So I looked at it and I went, oh, thank heavens, I'm not going to want to stitch that one. Because don't worry, I have lots left of Country Cottage Needleworks to stitch. But if you love the Nutcracker ballet, Country Cottage Needleworks that's their series for this year. There's one coming out a month. Let's see, I don't have the years on here. So from several years ago, they did Santa's Village. So it's a series of 12 charts. I, of course, have all 12. And again, it's because it's Santa's Village. They're houses. Of course I had to get it. Sorry, again, I didn't take these out of the plastic. I've only got, so there's a series of 12 of them. Each of them, there's the chart. Most of them have a button from Just Another Button Company that goes with it. I bought them as sets so that I got the button at the same time. Not every store does that. Some of the stores, they will sell you the chart and you have to specify that you want the button with it. The reason why they don't necessarily sell them together is because the size of the buttons don't necessarily work if you're changing your fabric count. So let me just open one of these. So they originally did these on a 32 count lamb's wool linen. I of course won't be doing it on lamb's wool linen, but I probably will be doing it on a 32 count because I like that. You know, but if you were someone who works on 40 count, the buttons won't necessarily fit. If you're one of those people who gets really excited and you do anything higher than that, it's none of the buttons would work and they wouldn't be able to necessarily size down. And so that's why a lot of the stores don't necessarily sell them together, because they're letting you make the decision, one, whether you want to spend the money on the buttons, two, whether the fabric you're doing on is conducive to it, all sorts of things. But I have all 12 of the charts. Both Stephanie from Just Keep Stitching was working on this a little bit in 2021, and Debbie from Snug Harbor Crafts is also working on this. I think she's only got two or three houses left to go. So I have all of them, so I'll just show a couple of them. So that first one was the Christmas Tree Farm. This is Candy Cane Cottage. And Hot Cocoa Cafe. They were all really lovely. Loved them. Got them. Haven't stitched them. Isn't that the story of most of my stash? But they tend to do a lot of ones that are small houses, so that's how they get me every time. So this is Glitter Village. This is a series of 9 charts. So this is Glitter House 1. Glitter House 2, at least they're coming up in order. Glitter House 3. Glitter House 4. I'm not going to show you all 9, you get the gist of it. In the notes below, I will give you the link. So generally when they're doing a series on the Country Cottage Needleworks site, they have a page that shows you all of them together. So you can get information that way. I will, for these ones that are in series, I will put a link in the notes below to the Country Cottage Needleworks site to that particular series. So there's 9 in that series. So one of the more recent ones is Snow Village. I keep trying to see where, I don't know when these ones came out. This is a series of 11 charts. I don't have 11 charts. This is an example where so similar to the Nutcracker one, they've got a bigger one in the center and then all the rest of them go around it. 4 on the first row, 2 on each of the sides of the center one, and then 4 on the bottom. That's how you get to 11. So I didn't like the snow people in the middle, so I'm only planning on doing 9 of them. But this is the popsicle cart. Frozen hot chocolate, which I think is hilarious. Peppermint parlor. Snowflake stand. Again, I won't show you all of them because you can go look at the series. But yeah, they get me with a series of houses. They also have a series called Main Street, which I also have. The upside is, one of the benefits to my stitching so far in 2022 is that I did the January cottage and I got it finished in quite a reasonable amount of time. So it says to me that if I were to ever work on one of these series, it would probably be quite reasonable for me to get it accomplished in a decent amount of time. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what my Country Cottage Needlework plans are for the rest of the year in the last video of this particular month when I do my January wrap-up. So generally those charts are all of about a similar size. So the January Cottage of the month was 77 by 77. So this one from the Snow Village is 55 by 61. So they're all of relatively small sizes, very achievable, nothing convoluted. You know, probably the hardest, so far the hardest thing I found is the French knots that I did on the snowman. So not very little specialty stitches, all that kind of stuff. So if you are a beginner stitcher, I wouldn't, these are all very, very achievable. So here's just another random sampling of Country Cottage shirts that I have in my stash yet to be done. So this is, I just looked at and I've already forgotten, Christmas carols. So again, I'd have to think about which colors I would end up doing each of the carols in. Might change them, might keep them the same. But I really love the concept of just having a list of Christmas carols and having that hanging up for Christmas time. Again, this is not terribly big, 77 by 166. So when done on 28 count, it's 5.5 by 11.5. So I would probably do it on 32, which would make it just a little bit smaller. So again, not very, very reasonable in size. She also has all 4 of the seasons in charts like this, where you've got the banner at the top, a house, and then words that she's associated with that particular season. So this is winter. I have all 4 of them, but I've only pulled out 2. And this is the spring one. Again, both of these, the chart calls for beads. So I've got the called for beads for winter and for spring. You know, again, they're a very reasonable size, you know, 67 by 142. So again, should stitch up relatively quickly when I get to that point. I just haven't gotten to that point yet. Ornamental Joy, I love this one. I've seen lots of people stitch this. It's really lovely. This is Winter Welcome. I don't love being outside in the cold, but I love the concept of snowflakes and blue houses. Give thanks with a grateful heart. One, I love the sentiment. 2, it's got a house. 3, it's got blue on it. So how could you go wrong? This is Snowflake Serenade. So again, she's got a series of charts that sort of piece together a variety of different things along a theme. White Christmas, Winter Wonderland. So this is a piece where in my head I sort of went, yes, so if, as you were transitioning out of your Christmas decorating, if you ever got a whole bunch of things stitched up, you could decorate for winter. This is called Afternoon in Paris. She's got several of these of different cities. This is the only one from this series that I have. On the other ones, the proportions for those cities, it throws me off. It doesn't quite work for me, so I really enjoy this one. I like this one, which is why it's in my stash. This is the only one from her city series that I have. And I do. I look at it and I go, yeah, I'd love to stitch that. And that's the upside. You know, the interesting thing as I prepare for these designer focus episodes, as I'm looking through my stash, the upside is largely, even now as I'm looking at the charts that I have in my stash, I look at them and I go, I still like that. I still want to stitch that, which is great. This is Beach Day. Every day should be a beach day. Yeah, that would be lovely too. Not really reasonable for where I particularly live, but it sounds like a really great concept. Beach house, yes. I figure if I just stitch enough beach things, eventually I can pretend like I'm living at the beach. And if we have summers that have that many plus 30-degree days, it might start to feel like that. This is one called The Bookstore. Again, she gets me with houses. So the name of the lady behind Country Cottage Needlework is Nikki Lehman. I always have a little bit of a chuckle because there are people who get Country Cottage Needleworks and Little House Needleworks mixed up, and that totally makes sense to me because Nikki Lehman is the daughter of the lady behind Little House Needleworks. So I'm not surprised their styles are quite similar. Certainly because the daughter's seen everything that her mother's designed and stitched. So I always have a little bit of a chuckle when people go, Little House Needleworks, Country Cottage Needleworks, one of those two. And it makes total sense because the designers behind them are related. So that is a quick little tour of some of the charts of my Country Cottage Needleworks that I have in my stash. Like I say, I will put a link to their website if you want to have a tour and see what's going on with that. If you want to see more of their things, there certainly is a wide variety of themes and how you can stitch them up. You know, me, yes, I tend to buy the ones that have houses or are Christmas, either Christmas or winter related or beach themed. So what can I say about that? There's certain things that appeal to me. And with that, I hope you've had a really great first full week of 2022. I'm hoping we're off to a better year than we probably had last year, but you know, the COVID things continue to be predominant, and there's certainly a lot of predictions that we're not really going to see the end of it until actually 2023. I even hate to say that, a little bit of a twitch there, but so I'm just bracing for that. But again, I hope everybody's had a really good, productive stitching week, that you have found some time to stitch. And again, like I said in the last video, I really do encourage you to set some goals for 2022. Again, you don't have to go crazy and come up with 442 things, but set some goals for yourself. It'd be great to see what comes out of that. I will also encourage you, if you haven't caught up with Jen Lee from Quirks and Stitches, she's Quirks and Stitches on Instagram. I haven't even gone to see if she's done a video yet this year, but she's the one who's doing 222 new starts in 2022, and her stitching this year has already put me to shame. I feel like she stitched about 3 times more than me, and she's made such great progress on her new starts this year. She's been working on her whips. She's just doing a fantastic job. So if you're not following her on Instagram, Quirks and Stitches, I highly, highly encourage you to do that, because she's just doing fantastic stuff. And I can't wait to see how 2022 unfolds for her. And with that, I hope you have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next week. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or topics you would like me to address, please feel free to put them in the comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.